Hi, welcome back to Airsoft Action TV. I'm Tom Anvil Hibberd and we're here to talk about Perun Optical MOSFETs. I've had these in my LCT AKS74. You'll have seen that on some of our range videos. I've also had the version 2 unit in my GMP M733. So what is it about these that you need to know? So these are optical MOSFETs, and by optical it means it replaces mechanical components in the gearbox with light emitting diodes and sensors. The first thing these do is they replace the standard trigger contacts with a beam of light that's broken when the trigger is pulled. That saves an awful lot of wear and tear, particularly when you've got high load batteries, high rate of fire guns. It makes everything a lot easier. The second thing these do is they have a gear position sensor, so another beam of light that knows where the teeth in the final gear in the gearbox are and what position they're in. That allows it to be much more reliable, particularly in semi-automatic, whereas previously you may well have experienced lock-up in your gearbox where you're firing on semi-automatic and then it jams up. Sometimes that can be solved by switching to fully automatic for a short burst. Sometimes you have to take the grip off, take the motor off and get a small tool up to unlock the gearbox, which is a real pain. So primarily these are absolutely fantastic for solving those problems. But that's not all. The Perun MOSFET has loads of additional features. The first one is burst mode. So on this GMP, I can set either the semi-automatic or the fully automatic to several different modes. I can have it on one shot or a 2 to 5 round burst, and that's programmable, or fully automatic, and that's in both semi and auto. So for example, I could have single shot, 3 round burst. I could have fully automatic and a 3 round burst or a 5 round burst. It's really up to you how you want to do it, which is really cool. Particularly if you're going to a semi-auto site, you can set it for semi and then have absolutely no risk, combined with some of the other features of firing off a fully automatic burst. So the next up is active brake. This feature allows the gearbox to stop the motor in the right place after you've fired a shot. This in particular stops overspin, which is where when you release the trigger the motor keeps turning, and in extreme cases it can fire another shot. It can certainly lead to inconsistent performance between shots. Another really useful feature for active brake is you can turn it on at the end of a day, fire a few shots, and you can make sure that your gearbox is uncompressed and that the spring is forward in the correct place. If you want a really fast trigger response, the Perun Optical MOSFETs also feature Precock. This feature advances the gearbox and stages the piston ready for the next shot almost immediately. It uses a combination of the active brake and the gear position sensor to do so. It features 5 levels of boost. You will have to experiment a little bit yourself to find out which one works best for you. Precocking doesn't work brilliantly in this gun because there's only 2 positions for the anti-reversal latch on the bevel gear. There's a couple more features we need to talk about. So the Perun MOSFETs also feature a battery warning level that will give you an audible warning and a vibration of the motor when the battery drops below a certain voltage. Again, you have to program that yourself. It's not too difficult. And the other thing that these have is a double trigger. Now this is a bit like the binary triggers you can see on some real guns in the States, where it fires both on pulling and releasing the trigger. Now we're pretty sure that at a semi-auto site that's not on. In my mind, it's also not very safe. So personally, I have experimented with it. I'm not going to be using it, and I recommend, certainly in the UK, that we don't use it at all. So with the Perun MOSFET, you get the small programming card, which is fantastic. one of the advantages of this product is that you can take it to a game day. You don't need to plug it in. You don't need any cables. You don't need a laptop. You don't need a mobile phone. You just need this programming card or a good memory. And to enter programming mode, you switch from semi to full a couple of times. You use a number of trigger presses and a hold to set. And that's it. So it can be a bit fiddly. You do need to listen out, but you can change your programming in the field, and that makes it super useful if you're at a safe zone and you've forgotten to do something, or you want to set it up in a slightly different way. So the Perun Opticals are made in two basic versions. You've got a version 2 type for the version 2 gearbox, and a version 3 for a version 3 gearbox. The version 2 comes in a front wired and a back wired variant. I've got the back wired variant in this one. The version 3 Perun is a little bit different to the version 2 in that the wiring harness isn't fully complete. You have to finish it yourself. There are so many different variations of version 3 guns with wiring in really strange places that they've made the decision to offer it with an incomplete wiring harness that you solder yourself. So there's quite a big decision there. If you're not confident with the soldering iron, the Perun MOSFET probably is not the one for you. So I've certainly had much easier installations of a MOSFET, though the wiring harness in this is now super tidy. So if you have a slightly weird version 3 or you have a project in mind, I think the version 3 Perun is a really good idea. So why would you choose a Perun version 2 or version 3 MOSFET? Quite simply, it's value for money. They're roughly half the price of the Gate Titan. The Gate Titan is a more fully featured item. It has more modes, it's more easily programmed by plugging it into a laptop, and it's a slightly easier to fit. However, these are, as I say, half the price. So if you're quite competent in fitting one yourself and you want to save a bit of money, and you don't need all of the features of a Gate Titan, I really recommend the version 2. The version 3, because of the soldering needed and the incomplete wiring harness, is a slightly different matter. So if you're not confident soldering, you're going to have to employ a tech anyway, and that will probably wipe out the cost difference. However, if you have a slightly unusual project, a slightly unusual gun, you want to do something a bit weird, then the version 3 is really good. I managed to unlock a secret bonus on the Perun MOSFET.